Hey, KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra. Right here on my right, Tom Keegan. And right here in the middle, I'm Matt Tate. Not really the left or the right, just kind of there. Would you agree?
Just kind of a blob.
Just kind of, I'll take that. All right, well, again, no games, no real critical analysis happening out there in KU world, but there's a lot of stuff going on still, spring football. And, of course, the women's basketball program still looking for a head coach. It sounds like the search is moving along very well. What do you got?
Yeah, and this weekend it won't be moving because Shane Zenger is going to see a man going to a funeral. The Illinois State flight that crashed had a few of his friends on it, including the first hire he ever made at Illinois State, and he also was friends with some donors. So our sympathies for that, what they're going through up there.
Yeah, I met at least one of them when I went up and did the story. Aaron Leach. Really, really good dude. Gosh, hard to imagine those things happening and any justification for them. But
yeah, but the search is moving along. We'll take a hiatus, but he'll be right back at it with the search next week. And Katie O'Connor, he has faith in her keeping the recruiting class together and keeping everything going along so that he can take his time making sure he's being thorough at vetting every candidate and getting the right person. And he's talking to a lot of good names. You've got Wichita State's coach, Jody Adams, has done impressive things at Wichita State, very intense. You've got a couple of really good JUCO coaches with ties to Kansas. I like that route. Oklahoma State has had good luck with that. John Anchez is at Hutch Community College. Lost one game all year, and that was in the title game of the National JUCO Tournament. Same tournament where
fire him. Oh, sorry.
Jim Turgeon got his team there. Jim Turgeon, who resuscitated a program, it really built a program at Dodge City. They'd never been a winner before or after him. Then he went to Iowa Western, got them to the national tournament. Terrific coach, brother of Mark Turgeon from Topeka, all sorts of Kansas ties. Those are a couple of good guys, and he's also talking to some head coaches, assistant coaches, had some D2 coaches on his list. So he's being very thorough, and there's no rush to get this done thanks to Katie O'Connor.
Yeah, I know he believed when he decided to move on from Bonnie Hendrickson that there would be plenty of options here, plenty of good candidates, and it sounds like that's been what he's found for sure, which is exciting news. And it also sounds like this thing could be maybe in the next couple of weeks they'll make a hire and move forward from there, and it will be really interesting.
It'll be an April hire, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, for sure.
And it will be interesting to see if it can get not only a good coach, but someone who has a personality and will go to the fraternities, sororities, dorms, and try to generate interest, because the students have kind of ignored the program.
Yeah, it's time to change that. I agree. Well, let's move on to the regular slate here. Good news first, and I'm going to go with KU football for this. As crazy as that sounds. We talked to 6 of these assistant coaches the other day on this staff, and you guys have already heard about the energy and the excitement, the passion, and the roll-up-your-sleeves mentality and all that stuff that they have going on up there. But we were able to talk to 6 guys the other day, and what I really liked and what I really thought was good news was that when you would ask them a question, they didn't just try to pull the wool over your eyes with everything's good, it's hunky-dory. There was none of that. I'll give you an example. I asked Clint Kubiak, the receivers coach, who had said a couple of months ago, I want our group, our receivers, to be the toughest group on this team. And I asked him just the other day, how's that coming? Are your wide receivers the toughest group on this team? And he said, it's still a work in progress. He didn't say they're working really hard at it and they're trying really hard or anything like that. He said it's a work in progress, which tells you they're not the toughest unit on the team yet.
Right.
And that's honest, that's sincere, that's true evaluations, and I think it was that way throughout the room. I talked to several guys that kind of said that same stuff. They're dealing in reality, they're working in reality. Huge, huge, huge good news.
Very similar to the Kenny Perry approach when I talked to him. He said that these guys he's working with in the secondary don't have any idea really how much harder it's going to be in the regular season than in practice, because they're going in practice against a team that's learning a new offense, that they're taking breaks to instruct, and when you get in the games, these teams have been running that offense for years. Oklahoma, Baylor.
No breaks.
It's just bam, 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 bam. You're like a punching bag. And they really don't know yet how much better they have to become to have any shot against those kind of offenses they're playing. There are no false promises here.
Yeah, I love that. It's a huge change. It's a it's a huge thing, a very important way to build a foundation, and they're doing a great job with that. What's the bad news this week?
Well, that Cliff Alexander's college basketball career is over because I really think he would have had a better shot at a long pro career had he stayed here as long as Thomas Robinson stayed here. There's some similarities between the two guys as basketball prospects. If Thomas Robinson had gone to the NBA after his freshman season, as raw as he was, he wouldn't have gotten drafted in the first round. Maybe he'd have gotten drafted in the second round. He wouldn't have made a pro roster. He would have gone to, not an NBA roster, and he would have gone to the D-League, and then who knows what happens from there. As it is now, he's kind of a journeyman power forward with guaranteed money, and he's setting himself up for a great life. I hope I'm wrong about Cliff Alexander not getting picked in the first round, because the first round would be 2 years of guaranteed millions, which would be great. He'd have a shot at setting himself up. Right now, I fear that he's going to be a second-round pick, go to the D-League, and who knows from there.
Yeah, it's crazy because you can see that he's not ready to go, but obviously we've talked about that at length. It's not about that anymore. No. But it's still just such a wild thing. I mean, when Cliff committed, it was a national or at least a local holiday around here. People thought, oh, we got this guy. It was a crazy celebration everywhere you looked. Certainly on our side, it almost broke our site. And we're hoping that happens again in the very near future because they got some more guys they're going after. But from that, where you start, to this finish where you don't even play the last 8 games and your eligibility is questioned, and when you were out there, you were only getting 7 minutes a game. Just a bad deal all the way around. Maybe it is good for him to have a fresh start, but it sure looks
I think it would have been
ominous.
Great for him to have a 3-year college career at Kansas. Then I would have believed that he'd be a first-round pick. Now I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back to football real quick with a little football update. As I mentioned, we talked to 6 of these assistant coaches. You know, the thing that's impressive is we've talked about day 1, day 2, day 3 is how they install the offense. So they're now...
And then back to day 1, day 2,
correct,
day 3.
yeah, repeat. So they're on the 3rd cycle of that now, and it sounds like that's really going well. I mean, a lot of it will still hinge on the quarterback, which is still a big-time competition and wide open. But Clint Kubiak said, hey, my receivers, they know what to do. They've picked this offense up. They've learned it in the film room. They've learned it during install. And now it's just a matter of getting them out there and executing and making plays and doing the right things. So that's a good thing. I mean, you know, Zach Yenser, the offensive line coach, sort of the same thing. We're just trying to teach these guys to be football players now. They get the offense. They get the protections up front. So that's really good news there as far as the progression throughout the spring, especially since they're only halfway. And then I asked Kevin Kane, the linebackers coach, about the defensive side of things, and he said their base is pretty much all the way in. They got some third down stuff they still need to install.
That's a 4-2-5 base.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a little different than we've seen in the past few years, and that's good news that he said about 95% of the way in with that installation. So really good news that they've been able to progress at this rate, not only because they're such a inexperienced bunch, but because it's a first-year coaching staff. That's not easy.
No, it's never easy. The turnover sets you back. It's unavoidable. And that we've talked about the lack of depth. It's really a serious issue on the offensive line, at linebacker more than anywhere, and in the secondary.
Yeah. All right, basketball update. You already mentioned Cliff Alexander. Definite bad news there. But let's talk a little more about how his departure affects this team. It's not necessarily the worst news for the Kansas roster and next year's outlook to not have Cliff. Agreed?
It depends who you replace him with. I think he would have made steps as a sophomore.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's surprised at this. We knew it was heading here.
Right.
Even before the issues with the NCAA, it looked like he was a one-and-done player.
Yeah, so now they got to go find guys to replace him, and that's a good thing. I mean, Bill Self now has the opportunity to say, okay, recruits, okay, McDonald's All-Americans who are undecided, we know that Kelly Oubre and Cliff Alexander are off the books. We need to replace them. Who's in?
Okay, Mike Thorne of Charlotte is a strong possibility, the graduate from Charlotte, a Tarek Black type situation.
Yeah.
And then you've got
6'10", right? Big
yeah,
guy.
6'11" is what he's listed at, and a 270 or something along those lines.
Big body.
And then you have Czech Diallo, who was the MVP of the McDonald's All-American game. Got a shot at him. They've got a shot at Steven Zimmerman of Vegas. So you need one of those three at least.
Right.
If you get one of those three, pair them with Perry Ellis, assuming Perry Ellis is back, then you're on your way, and you've got 5 experienced perimeter players And Sviatoslav Mihailuk will take a huge leap. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. And you got Graham and Mason and Selden and Brandon Green. So on the perimeter, a lot of stuff, and the good experience and good talent there, and the possible bonus of getting a Malik Newman.
Sure.
So if you throw him into the mix, then you're talking about a lot of talent, a lot of competitions going on, and a good outlook. This is going to be a more experienced team than Kansas has had in a couple of years, and that can't be anything but good news.
Yeah, you mix those veterans like Perry Ellis, Frank Mason, Wayne Selden with these new exciting pieces, the new toys. I mean, Carlton Bragg's a guy who's already committed.
Correct.
There's definitely guys that are coming in. Who they are remains to be seen. I saw some stuff on Twitter that it's looking better that Diallo might be one of those guys, which if you watch the McDonald's game, that's very exciting. He's
good motor.
A super talented player and a lot of raw skills, too.
And the bad news, of course, there is Kentucky has 7 guys who declared for the NBA draft, so they're going to be right in there on all these guys as well.
I'm thinking about going down there and seeing if I could just snag one of those 7 spots.
Well, if you want to be coached by Coach Cal and
I'd
hang
stay
out,
4 years is the deal. I can give you that. I can promise you that. I would stay 4 years.
As a manager.
Sure.
You can do the laundry with the best of them.
Sure, yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you can cook something, do you have a specialty?
Yeah, this.
Well, how about cooking, too? Can you do
cereal? Man, good stuff. Captain Crunch.
Captain
Crunch.
Save your money and don't take that trip to Lexington. They can do much better.
All right, fair enough. Hopefully they do. I know everybody's pulling for Kentucky to really pull through this hard
to have a good manager.
Yeah, right, definitely. All right, let's finish it up like we always do with the most obnoxious man in sports. Some weeks we have to really dig and try to find a guy here. Other weeks like this one, there are guys falling from the sky, dropping on our desks, begging to be this most obnoxious man, or maybe begging not to be. But who'd you pick?
I'm going to throw you a little curve here because he's a guy that you don't normally associate with the word obnoxious. You associate him with underdog, with great coach, with seemingly good guy.
Jack Schreiner?
Not Jack Schreiner, no. A good golfer, though. Yeah. Bo Ryan, Wisconsin head coach, was the most popular coach in America after beating Kentucky in the semifinals. Then he kind of did a little harm to his image. It's tough losing a national title game, but you shouldn't point fingers at Duke and say that, well, we don't use rent-a-players. Well, Krzyzewski didn't like that because rent is a connotation. It's something illegal.
Yeah.
I'm sure Bo Ryan didn't mean it that way, but Krzyzewski didn't like it. He was gracious in his criticism of Bo Ryan, putting in the context of, look, I've lost the national title game. I know how hard it is. You have to go first when you lose. But I wish he hadn't used those words, is what Krzyzewski said. And there's nothing but respect for this Duke team. Those one-and-done guys, if we assume that Tyus Jones and Winslow and Okafor are one-and-done, as well as the freshmen off the bench, Grayson Allen, who was outstanding. Nothing about these guys said freshmen. They played great. Just be gracious. Embrace the fact that the country loves you, Bo Ryan, because you knocked off Kentucky. And Kentucky was all one-and-done players, a lot of them. You beat one-and-done team, and you lost to another. So a little disappointed.
Yeah, he also did the complain about the officiating thing right after.
Which there were some horrible calls. That finger was on the ball.
Right.
If you're going to review it, get it right, or don't have the review, like the guy who got slapped.
Exactly. That's 2 in 2 games for him. I mean, Trey Lyles with the blow to the face in the Kentucky game. How does that get missed?
Yeah, they looked at it, and then they don't call anything. Yeah. What are you looking for?
I'm frustrated about
a closed fist.
Right. Then that's an ejection.
Yeah. So what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Get rid of it. If you're not going to use it, get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can miss that live, no problem. But when you go to the monitor and look at it, you're crazy if you don't do something. That's just, according to those officials, that's just a legal play. Do that all game.
Yeah.
Knock people in the face all game.
Right. Well, so much for the concussion watch.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'm going to move to the NFL for my most
Speaking
obnoxious,
of concussions.
Yeah, good point. My most obnoxious man is a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers named Le'Veon Bell.
LB.
Your guy. Yeah, that's what he calls him. His friends call him LB. Le'Veon Bell in the last 12 months has been dinged for substance abuse issues, violating the league's policy. He did it about 12 months ago, and then he did it recently. He's facing a 3-game suspension for this latest episode, and obviously appealing it too, because they always do. I just can't stand this thing. I mean, this is a guy who last year was maybe the best all-around back in the game. He had a fantastic year. He's a young dude. He's super talented, and he's on the brink of becoming the best at his position in the game. How can you not just lock in and focus? Why do you have to be out there doing this kind of stuff? And maybe, a lot of guys are doing it. Maybe he just got caught. But either way, you're obnoxious for doing it or you're obnoxious for getting caught, one way or the other. Just a bad deal when you have so much to gain. He's probably not done. It's probably not a catastrophic mistake, but it just doesn't look good. It's obnoxious.
Well, there's a lot of pain that comes with playing with that sport, physical pain. There are legal ways of dealing with the physical pain. I hope he can find that, and I hope he can find ways to comfort whatever emotional pain that he's undergoing that makes him walk down that wrong path. So good luck to LB bouncing back, but
LB, a lot of compassion there for LB. Clearly, one of his closest friends sitting right here to my right. Obnoxious. Bo Ryan and Le'Veon Bell. Peas in a pod. Wow.
2 peas in a pod.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, that's all the time we have for this episode of KU Sports Extra. We'll be back next week with more, perhaps with a women's coach hire. Who knows?
Probably not. I'm going to give it the very next episode after that.
Well, that means you got to come back twice. We win, you lose. No, we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for checking out this episode of KU Sports Extra.